So let's not waste any time and say hello to the man himself, Dan Hardy. Hello, Dan. How are you?
I'm good, man. Always good talking to you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for doing this. We were supposed to talk on Monday, but we're talking on Wednesday, and I'm very excited about all of this. Appreciate you joining me on a very busy week for the Hardy family. First time that you get to corner your wife in a fight, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a weird experience being here for fight week, but being here as a corner man instead. Yeah, it's been a long while since I've cornered at a UFC event. I'm looking forward to it, and yeah, she's on track. She'll tell you all about it in a little while when you speak to her, but she's more than ready.
Can't wait. And by the way, when was the last time you cornered anyone at a UFC event? Do you even remember?
I think it might have been Mac Danzig.
Holy
Was that
smokes.
Matt Wyman? Yeah, Matt Wyman in maybe Vancouver. No, yeah, something like that. I think it was. Must have been Mac Danzig. Yeah, must have been long time ago.
Yes, I don't know how many people watching this show remember that name. Of course, the OG fans do. Well, like you said, we're going to talk to your wife in a matter of moments as well about her big return fight, and I look forward to having her on the show for the first time. But let's talk about you. You've got some very exciting news because obviously you're still in the MMA space. You're still doing your stuff for BT. You've got your YouTube channel as well, but you're getting even more involved in the MMA space in a really interesting way. Frank, do we have the music? Yes. Breaking news. The floor is yours. What do you want to share with the world, Dan?
I love it. Well, a lot of people know that I've joined forces with the PFL. I'll be working alongside their broadcasting team. Started working with them in November. But recently, as of Monday, basically this week, I've joined the company as Director of Fighter Operations for PFL Europe. So I've got a great opportunity to really have good influence in Europe and try and help some of these fighters with opportunities that are not being presented to them at the moment.
Okay, so this is fascinating to me because I figured eventually you were going to do more broadcast work for them. As I said last year, I thought that you were a great addition to the broadcast team. I wanted to see you in New York, but then I found out that you weren't feeling well, so there was a good reason for it. Obviously, you're feeling better now, so all good. But Director of Fighter Operations for an organization that really seems to be investing heavily in the European market, which I think has never been stronger, never been healthier, never been more interesting. They're launching PFL Europe. First event, I do believe, is March 25th in Newcastle. So what exactly does that mean? For someone on the outside looking in, like Director of Fighter, what does that mean? Are you signing all the fighters? What exactly is the role?
Well, fortunately, the PFL global team have done a great job of building the roster this year. I'll have some influence on the fighters and the events later in the year, but really, I'll take up the reins of the matchmaker and the talent scout for 2024. I've already started working at it now. I've started building a database of fighters that kind of a wish list. The people around Europe that I feel are going to be a good fit for PFL and that have got a lot of potential. I mean, it's every day watching fights, researching fights, trying to find, the new stars of Europe. And of course, I'm paying a close attention to the amateur scene as well. We have so many fighters in Europe that are just undiscovered and they're trying to float around, maybe get one or two fights a year because opponents keep pulling out. You know how it is, Ario. You've heard these fighters' frustrations over the years. The consistency of competition has been the struggle. So March 25th in Newcastle is the first PFL Europe event, PFL Europe 1. And that'll be the first of 4 in Europe this year. We'll do Berlin, Paris, and then Dublin. And then next year, we're looking at doing hopefully another 4 events, but probably more. There's too many fighters in Europe to just do 4 events a year. So that's going to grow very quickly. And as you know, PFL have got big plans, like worldwide big plans. Bringing the league to combat sports, I think is very, very cool and very interesting. It brings consistency. It's good for people that follow, hockey and football like us that are used to leagues. And it's very much a European thing, to be able to follow someone's story through a league, or, to championships, potentially winning a lot of money at the end of it. It's going to be great for the fans. And I'm excited to be a part of it and to, create opportunities that are not there right now for European fighters. There's good shows, but there's no consistency. And that's the plan for me. It's to bring that consistency to Europe.
Dare I say, correct me if you feel otherwise, the fighters in PFL Europe right now are sort of like the athletes, the footballers in the championship. And dare I say, we're looking for the next Nottingham Forest to get promoted into the Premier League of 2024. Do you get what I'm saying, Dan? From one Nottingham supporter to another. Do you understand the language that I'm speaking here?
I love that link, Ariel. I
Okay.
love that link. It's absolutely that. There's so many stars around, and you see the good thing that the thing that Forest have done well, the thing that football teams have done well across Europe is to create academies. So they're bringing in young players that are going to become superstars in the future. But they get them in early enough so they can build them and protect them and look after them. And nobody's doing that for MMA right now. And PFL is the way to go. Professional Fighters League. It's on the tin, as you say. I think it's going to be a really, really big move for PFL, and I think it's going to be a really big, investment into Europe, it's going to be amazing for the scene over here.
I love it. Now, I'm curious, it's one thing to be a broadcaster and you've been doing this for a while now. Did you reach out to them about this expanded role, or did they reach out to you, obviously needing someone on the ground who knows the scene so well? Like, who initiated this particular conversation?
This was the PFL that came to me.
Wow.
I signed a talent contract with them at the end of last year. And I worked the London and the Cardiff shows over here. I was due to be at the championship, but I was a bit under the weather, so I didn't want to travel and get anybody else sick. But it was an amazing event. I'm looking forward to being at the events this year in the US and seeing how PFL global shows are ran. But I'll be a part of the broadcast team for Europe as well as global. I'll be alongside. I'm not even sure it's been announced yet who's commentating alongside myself and Sean O'Connell, but I won't break that news.
I was just about to ask, who's the booth? Who's the booth?
I can't tell you, but what I will say is that I shared a card with him, and he's got a win over a UFC heavyweight champion. So that's the clue I'll give you right now.
Wow.
He's going to be a great broadcasting partner for us, and I'm looking forward to working with him. And I'll be working as an analyst on the European shows. But then when it goes to the global events, it will obviously be the commentary team as it is, Sean and, the greats, Sean O'Connell, Randy Couture and Kenny Florian. And then I'll be alongside doing a more specific job of analysis, using the video telestrator and, really, drawing a picture for the new fans of PFL about what's going on, kind of transitioning from what I was doing with Inside the Octagon and what I currently do with BT Sport. But, putting that on a live broadcast, which will be a really fun challenge for me.
I love it. By the way, that clue was all I needed. I feel like I know who it is, but I'll leave it to myself. I love that idea. If it is who I think it is, I love that. I think that's going to be a great team. By the way, speaking of BT, are you still going to be doing the stuff for them, even though you're doing this as well?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
I'll absolutely be doing that show. It's a passion of mine, the breakdown show, and I always get great feedback. And I couldn't let that go. I love doing it.
Okay. Now, is this all on you? Like, are you the only one that's going to be tasked with finding all these people, or do you have like a little mini team with you as well?
Yeah, there will be a team growing in Europe. Of course, we've got the PFL global team that will be supporting me at the moment. Greg Savage and the other great guys over there that are the scouts and the matchmakers. But because I'm on the ground in Europe, I'm tuned into the amateur scene as well as the young pros that are making their debuts and stuff. I'm just in a good place to kind of start gathering this talent together and put them on a European roster where we can really celebrate them locally. Hopefully they work their way through the championships in Europe and win the 6-figure prize at the end, and then move on to the global where they can win the $1 million. Like it's almost like a fighter development event that we're going to be having in Europe. And the plan for PFL is to keep expanding that. They'll be doing, Middle East and South America and a bunch of other regions. But we're going to be developing talent across the globe and feeding into PFL Global. So that championship that Brendan Loughnane won is going to be even more in demand in the coming years.
So, as you know, I don't have to tell you, there's a massive appetite for MMA all over Europe. I feel it. I feel like the UFC doesn't go there enough. Obviously, they're going to the UK a few times a year now, but there's this huge appetite. And I feel like other promotions have tried to tap into it. I remember Bama back in the day, no longer with us. Cage Warriors has a good product, but they're kind of viewed as a feeder league. Bellator seemed to have made a like an investment, and then they kind of pulled it back a little bit. Maybe the pandemic had something to do with it. What does the PFL have to do right that maybe others in the past did not do? What lessons can we learn? Because it seems like everyone always says like conquer Europe, but no one has really what is the dominant organization in Europe? There really isn't one. I feel like it could be PFL. What do you guys need to do that others haven't done?
Like you said, Ariel, it's the consistency of the shows. Like we have really good shows in Europe. Cage Warriors have always been, been a good platform for fighters to step into the UFC. Aries in France is doing amazing things as well. And, but they're very specific to their region. What PFL Europe will be able to do is to travel around Europe and go to different markets and spread the PFL brand across Europe as opposed to being, more nationally based like Cage Warriors or Aries are. Lots of good shows. Octagon, Hexagon. We are developing good shows over here, but what PFL will be is the kind of the powerhouse that all these young fighters can aim for, that will kind of, curate their career, if you like. They'll get good opportunities. They'll be fighting consistently. They'll be on cards where they'll be, fighting alongside people that will be in the same championships as them. So once the fight's over, they'll know who they've got next and what date it is they're working towards. Like, as a young fighter, I would have loved that opportunity. And I think with the IMAFs, with the amateurs, that's what we're getting for them. We've just had the World Championships where, 17 fighters from the English team went out there and, we picked up a couple of medals, but it's very, very competitive around the world. And I want to bring some of those amateur champions into the PFL because they're going to be stars in the future. And, at the moment, we've got, Simeon Powell and Dakota Ditchever, who's on the March 25th card. They're both undefeated, 7-0, massive potential with them. But then, are they ready for the globals team? We're not exactly sure. Is Simeon Powell ready to fight someone like a Rob Wilkinson or a Thiago Santos? Maybe not. But after this year, he may well prove himself to be. So it's a good local platform for people to grow, and I'll be trying to help them as much as I can.
Love it. And for those that don't know, I do believe those PFL Europe events, the 4 that you spoke of for this year, those will air on DAZN here in North America, but also in Europe as well, right? Because ESPN Plus is the home, or ESPN is the home of PFL in North America or in the United States, but you get it on DAZN here, and over in Europe, it's on DAZN as well, correct?
It is absolutely, yeah. DAZN, and Sean O'Connell and I have started the DAZN MMA show as well, which we record every Monday. So there's snippets that you'll get of that throughout the week as well that'll be on DAZN platforms. I'm just so happy that DAZN are investing in MMA.
Yeah.
They're an absolute powerhouse in the combat sports world, and I feel like they're doing big things. They're bringing the combat sports community together, and for PFL to have a home there, and for DAZN to be as supportive as they are, it's perfect for us. I think it's going to be a really strong partnership going forward.
So we have the CEO of the North American branch of DAZN, Joe Markowski, in studio today, and I was thinking of things to talk to him about, and I was like, I know they have the DAZN boxing show. They should do the DAZN MMA show now that they're getting into it so much. I didn't even know that when did this start? I totally missed this.
Yeah, we only started it last week.
Okay, all right.
It's a new thing.
All right.
It's Sean O'Connell and I. It's just coming together. It's a lot of fun. We chat about everything, all things combat sports, from boxing to MMA to anything else. But it's a building show, but we've just started.
I love it. I love it. By the way, I feel like I have to ask you this because I think it was the last time we spoke. Does this mean you're officially done? Like, we're not going to do the fighting? We're done with it?
Well, I mean, we've got this pay-per-view shows on PFL, and who knows? Look, the reality is, Ariel, we've spoke about this. I tried to fight a couple of times last year. I had the boxing matches with Diego lined up, and 2 weeks out, it was cancelled and postponed to later in the year, and then it was picked up, and then 2 weeks out again, they decided that it was going to go on Sky Sports, and they took all of the non-boxing people off the card. It was very frustrating. I felt it evaded me twice last year, and I did 2 training camps. I was ready. Now, of course, Veronica's back in competition. She has to be the priority because she's world championship material. There's no doubt about it. And if I can do anything to help her get there, then that has to take priority over my competition. I mean, I'm 40 now. I've got a beard that's turning into Gandalf's, and I've got other jobs to be doing within MMA as well. So if I do fight, it would be a very selfish thing for me to do. I'm not counting it out because I can be selfish at times, but I have bigger priorities now, and they are not me fighting. So I'm not retiring officially, but I'm certainly sticking a pin in it to prioritize more important things.
I love this. It warms my heart, if I can say, because I sympathize with your story. You are a fighter, much tougher than I am, and here you are, not letting anyone write your story. You are fighting and you're doing great things, and you're growing a market that is near and dear to your heart. And I think it's amazing that they picked you up to do this. Not just, the broadcast stuff would have been great in its own right, but this to me is a brilliant move. So I love everything about it. So congratulations on it. Could I just ask, going back to what we were saying and talking about at the beginning of this chat, do you have any idea what the nerves are going to feel like on Saturday as you're walking out with your wife to fight? I mean, that is different than a friend or a teammate, right? Like, I can't even imagine what it's like to corner a loved one. This is the first time for you guys. What do you think that's going to feel like?
Yeah, it's going to feel odd. I must admit, I've been meditating on it myself, as well as doing visualizations with Veronica to work through the fight in her head. I've been doing the same thing with myself. And I'll be walking out following her with Hardy on the back of her shirt, and
wow,
that's going to be very surreal for me as well. It's exciting. I think the UK fans are going to really embrace her. I mean, she's a UK native now. She lives here full time, and we drove to London, which is always nice to be able to drive to the venue. I'm of course I'm nervous, I'm anxious, but I'm excited for it. Like, we've had a hell of a training camp. We've had 3 years out. We've been learning and focused on MMA every day of the week. She has to, because she's stuck with me. So, I know that she's the level of fighter that she is now compared to what people expect of her is an entirely different thing. I'm anxious and excited at the same time. Not nervous at all, because I know what she's capable of.
Are you her head coach?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah. We have great people around us. We've got Jimmy Warled in the corner, Bellator, UFC veteran, Cage Warriors champion, currently preparing to unify the belts in April. And we've got Jack Young in the corner as well, who's an excellent judoka and a great training partner for Veronica. So we've got good people around us. We went to GB Top Team. We've been spending some time with Brad Pickett and Ash Grimshaw. Training with great partners as well. Chanel Dyer, you've got to check out her knockout from the weekend. Beautiful spinning elbow on Hexagon. We've had a really, really good team around us. I'm just kind of overseeing everything and facilitating and pad holding and getting punched in the face, and all the good stuff that a good husband / coach can do. But she's more than capable. She doesn't really need me guiding her. She knows her own mind and what she needs to do.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because I saw, I think she posted maybe it was a few months ago or maybe last year, like a happy birthday thing to you on Instagram, and it was a picture of you guys, and it was the first time you met, and you're clearly in the locker room because you have the lanyard. So you met for the first time at a UFC event in the locker room?
Well, first and second time we met, she's laughing now because she knows I'm going to tell you the story. So the first time was UFC Hamburg, and she stepped in the elevator, and she was like smiling, and then her floor came and she forgot to get out. That was very cute. And then the next time I saw her was in Prague, and she came running down the corridor and gave me a hug. I mean, it was kind of a hug, kind of a body lock. I was expecting to get taken down. And that was like the second time I'd seen her, and we just got on straight away. Although she's of a different generation to me, we've had a similar kind of journey through martial arts, through Taekwondo, and kind of piecing all the traditional martial arts together to make something of MMA. But yeah, it's been an awesome 3 years. And then we got married in December, 22nd of December, on my mum's birthday. That was awesome as well. And then straight into training camp, in.
Love it.
We've not yet had a honeymoon or anything like that.
And like I said, we're going to talk to her in a moment. But before I let you go, I'd be remiss if I don't ask you about the main event on Saturday. This I would imagine is a near and dear one to everyone who built this market's heart, right? I mean, to see a UK champion bring an event, a pay-per-view, and not in the middle of the night like it was for Bisping back in the day. Like, this is prime time in the UK, and it's Leon of all people. Like, who doesn't like Leon, right? Soft-spoken, respectful Leon. He's the champ. He's the star of the show. How do you see it going down? Can you give us some insight?
I think Leon's going to be really, really sharp. I think he's realized what he's capable of now from that first fight. He won the first round. He was able to take Usman down, mount him, take his back. A lot of confidence can be taken from that. But then he lost the second, third, and fourth round quite convincingly. But I also felt like he looked very flat. I've trained in Salt Lake. I can imagine that his lungs felt like they were burning and his body felt very heavy. And I don't really feel like it was a good Leon performance, even though obviously he won the belt. I thought the second to the fourth round, he looked very, very flat and not at all himself. And then, the corner team rallying him at the end of the fourth round was just something special. Stop feeling sorry for yourself, Rocky. Perfect. It pulled him out of that psychological hole that he was in, and he went and took the belt off Usman conclusively and concussively. It was a beautiful performance, and I feel like he's most likely going to do the same thing this weekend as well. Of course, Usman can slow him down and drown him and control him up against the fence, but there are gears to Leon's game, and as long as he's got his lungs underneath him, I feel like he's going to have that striker's chance. Elbows and knees are my prediction for him this weekend, because I expect Usman to fight him at a much closer range. But I also think that Leon's going to have the conditioning, the gas tank, and the weapons to do the business. As you said, main event, O2 Arena, pay-per-view, defending his belt for the first time on home soil. The crowd are going to be absolutely wild for him, and he deserves this. He's been neglected by the organization for a long time. I remember him sitting on stage with Masvidal and Till feeling like he should have been the main event, and arguably he should have been. But it is what it is. His timing was perfect. He's arrived now. UFC 286 has got his name all over it, and all he needs to do is go out there and beat Usman again, which is far easier said than done. But I have confidence. I picked against him last time, and that was a mistake. I won't do it again.
I love it. I love everything about it. I love everything about what you're doing. We're still getting the breakdowns for BT, which are fantastic. Now the DAZN MMA show, breaking news there for me at least. Head of fighter operations for PFL Europe, part of the broadcast team for not just the European events, but all the events. I mean, if you felt like there wasn't enough Dan Hardy in your life, you're about to get a lot more Dan Hardy, which is tremendous stuff. So good luck to you, Dan. Thank you for coming on and sharing this news with all of us. Good luck to you and your wife, of course, on Saturday. And we're going to reset here. And then in a second, we're going to be back with your wife in, I think, that same spot. So thank you so much. And I can't wait to talk to her as well. Good luck.
Thanks, Ariel. Always good talking to you.
All right, there he is, Dan the Outlaw Hardy. How exciting is that?